Here's everything you need to know about Monica Rambeau's superpowers. Folks, Spider-Man 3 officially has a title that isn't Spider-Man Phone Home or Home Depot or Homewrecker, in spite of what Tom Holland, Zendaya, and Jacob Batalon's Instagram posts might have told you. It's officially called Spider-Man No Way Home. But we're not here to talk about how your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is going to deal with the multiversal madness of WandaVision just yet. We're here to talk about the newest superhero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I am, of course, talking about Monica Rambeau. That's right, folks. In WandaVision Episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall, we see Lieutenant Trouble gain her superpowers at long last, a development which comic book fans have been waiting for since they first heard the name Monica Rambeau in Captain Marvel. But Monica's come a long way since playing Uno with her newfound Skrull friend. She's currently Wanda Maximoff's best chance at fighting back against Agatha Harkness and whatever other sinister forces might be manipulating Wanda for their own evil ends. And if you've watched, say, any of our other videos, you know we have plenty of theories about who that might Fisto be. But today we wanted to make sure that everyone is up to speed on what exactly Monica Rambeau is capable of, why she's so important to the Avengers canon, and what to expect from her character moving forward. After all, as Eric Diaz laid out for us on Nerdist.com, Monica Rambeau's power set is pretty much God tier. But how do Monica's powers from the comics match up to her abilities on the show? Well, let's take a look at Monica's origins, because before she was Monica Rambeau, Agent of S.W.O.R.D., in the comics she was a full-fledged superhero going by a variety of names, including Spectrum, Photon, and Pulsar. But before all of that, Monica was the very first Captain Marvel, even taking that moniker before Carol Danvers.
That is the craziest shit I ever heard.
When Monica made her debut in 1982's Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 16, the original Captain Marvel, the Kree hero Mar-Vell, had tragically died. Carol Danvers honored her fallen friend by taking on the name Ms. Marvel, but she was relegated to kind of a side character in Uncanny X-Men, seemingly leaving her hero days behind her. That said, Marvel created a brand new character of Monica Rambeau to become the new Captain Marvel, despite no apparent connection to either Carol or Mar-Vell. Monica worked as a cargo ship captain in the New Orleans Harbor Patrol, and one day she wound up getting exposed to powerful extra-dimensional energy while trying to prevent an evil dictator from forcing a scientist to make a deadly weapon. You know, that old completely plausible thing that happens all the time in New Orleans. Monica, though, saved the day, and local newspapers dubbed her Captain Marvel. The experience left Monica with the power to convert her entire body into pure energy at will, meaning she can transform into any form of electromagnetic energy, radio waves, light, electricity, X-rays, so on and so forth. Later on in 1989's Captain Marvel number 1, the Fantastic Four's Reed Richards analyzes Monica and conjectures that she's constantly drawing energy from another dimension where she receives her powers from. And this is particularly fascinating given how the Hex, which gave Monica her powers on WandaVision, also seems to be pulling in extra-dimensional energy from the Marvel multiverse. One of the nicest moments in Monica's origin story is the Thing chomping on a fat cigar who tells Monica about the legacy of the Captain Marvel name, because Monica had no idea there was a Captain Marvel previously. Ultimately, the Thing encourages Monica to keep the moniker, noting that his dear departed friend would be very cool with it indeed. And it's a fitting name because much like Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers arriving like a bat out of hell in Avengers Endgame, Monica Rambeau's power set is similarly impressive and well worthy of that name. Monica is widely considered to be one of the most powerful Avengers, described in Captain America and the Mighty Avengers number 1 as an alpha-level threat. As we mentioned, she has the ability to transform into any form of energy on the electromagnetic spectrum, and she can exhibit all of that energy's properties as well. One of Monica's most tried and true abilities is her power to absorb energy and redirect it back at an opponent in the form of powerful blasts. She can also use light to turn invisible, completely disguise herself, and even travel at the speed of light. By converting her body into X-rays, she can also pass through solid objects and become intangible. In any one of her wavelengths, Monica has the ability to fly, and she can even duplicate new forms of energy she encounters as well. According to the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, Monica is so strong she can divert energy into a beam with a maximum explosive force of 300 tons of TNT. And as Eric Diaz wrote on Nerdist, essentially she's like Carol Danvers, the Invisible Woman, Multiple Man, and Kitty Pryde all rolled into one, which is to say incredibly strong indeed. Such power, though, is not without consequence, because in Avengers number 293, Monica altered her body into the form of a giant lightning bolt to take down a sea monster, but in doing so, she made contact with the ocean water, thereby scattering her atoms into thousands and thousands of pieces. Barely able to regain her human form, Monica seemingly lost her powers for a time. But when she finally did regain them years later, Monica was not only stronger than before, but basically immortal to boot. So clearly Monica is not someone to be trifled with in the comics. She went on to do everything from lead the Avengers, to serving as a living energy source for the Vision, to fighting vampires with Blade in her hometown of New Orleans. But how will all of this translate to WandaVision and the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Well, so far we've seen that Monica can see the entire spectrum of electromagnetic energy at work inside the Hex, as well as pull off not one, but two sweet-ass superhero landings. Monica's eyes now glow blue with potential energy, but she hasn't really pushed her powers yet. Meanwhile, Wanda's only been pushing herself harder and harder to maintain her perfect little world to the point of exhaustion. And I know it was Agatha all along, but something tells me that not even Agatha anticipated Monica's guest appearance in her magical murder basement. And with Monica's powers being caused by the Hex, she is now inextricably tied to both Wanda Maximoff and the multiverse into which the Marvel Universe is rapidly descending. As for whether or not Monica will be able to save Wanda from her bottomless pit of grief or keep the Vision alive, that remains to be seen. In the meantime, though, we'll be waiting with bated breath to figure out what happens when Snoopers snoop on WandaVision Episode 8 this Friday on Disney+. In the meantime, though, tell us, what do you think of Monica's new abilities? What superhero name do you want to see her take in the MCU? And who would win in a fight, Monica Rambeau or Carol Danvers?
We are not talking about her.
Let's discuss in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.